Here's how to simplify a 3D print using Microsoft 3D Builder. If you click Load Object, load in your STL or other type of 3D file. You'll see it to scale as it is in the file. This is meant to be at millimeter scale, so we'll select that at the top and then import. This is a really, really big model of a 3D tooth that I want to shrink down, so I'm going to go to the scale at the bottom, and then I'm going to set it to about 50 centimeters. If you make sure that the padlock is clicked, that will snap to scale. So now the tooth is nice and small, and I'm just going to go to the transform panel and just make sure that the X and Y axes are on 0. That will keep it in the center of the bed effectively. And if you go to view and click center view, it's going to zoom in. And there you can see the scales on the bed. So you want to click wireframe at the top of the view window, and this will show you the kind of geometry of the print. Aside from being way too detailed for a print that's going to be 5 centimeters wide, the print is actually really hard to print because there's not much for it to rest on the top or the bottom of the tooth because the geometry is so kind of jagged. So we want to, reduce the amount of detail in this print so that it can be more efficiently printed at a smaller scale, and we want to split in half or reduce some of the geometry that it rests on in order to make it print a bit better. So we want to go into edit at the top and click simplify. This is a really simple way to reduce the geometry and save loads of time on a 3D print. So if you drag the slider, you'll start to see the geometry kind of reduced. You can do this to taste. I'm doing it quite far because it's going to be a really small print, so about there looks fine for me. You can also use a functionality called smooth, which sometimes doesn't work. It typically works when you have more detail, and that will smooth out some of the geometry. It's not going to work here because I've reduced so much of the geometry. But smoothing does add more geometry, so kind of be careful of that. You might have noticed the warning message at the bottom right saying click here to repair. I usually wait until this stage to do that. It's a really good auto tool. Cleans the geometry up just a little bit. The only kind of area in our model that's looking a bit weird to me is this kind of line in the middle. We could go back to like something like Blender and do more complex stuff on that, but I'm just going to leave it for now. And I'm going to click 3D print at the top right. It will show you any warnings at the bottom. So clicking this one, it's telling me that there's not enough surface on the bottom to print from. This is another thing to watch for when printing things. So in order to print something like this better without using too many supports, we actually want to cut it in half so we can print either way. So I'm going to go to edit, and there's a split functionality which is super helpful. So you can kind of set where it splits how you want, and you can either keep both parts or keep top and bottom. So I'm going to keep both. Splitting the model in half like this gives us 2 even surfaces from which to print. Now it's up to you whether you fully split in half, or you could just trim some of the bottom off to make a flat surface. So in this case, the feet of the tooth would have a flat level plane to which they'll start printing on, and this will reduce the chance of the model falling over or there being a lot of muck from the supports on the bottom. So it's up to you. I'm going to split this in half because it will mean I can print the entire thing and just piece it together. So now we have the model split in half, and we want to move the top side away and just inspect it. So if we rotate around the object, we can see 2 flat surfaces. It does a pretty good job of filling things in. And we just want to move these models down to the bed like this. And then we want to select the bottom half and rotate it 180. And there we go. 2 perfect ready to print models right there. Once you've made sure that both are touching the bed, you can select one, copy it in the object view before deleting it, because you want to save each one out as its own file. So we're going to save the bottom as tooth bottom. I'm going to save it as a STL file. You can ignore the compatibility window, and I'm going to Control Z to bring back the other half of the model. I'm going to select the half I just did and delete that. And now I just want to make sure that this half is 0 on the X and Y. And yeah, we'll do file save, and we now have 2 perfect files for 3D printing and assembling together. Doing it this way means that we don't have to have loads of messy supports, and we can just be really efficient with our material.